In the beginning, during the presence of Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya, Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, all the disciples worked in agreement. But just after his disappearance, they disagreed. One party strictly followed the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but another group created their own concoction about executing his desires. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the time of his departure, requested all his disciples to form a governing body and conduct missionary activities cooperatively. He did not instruct a particular man to become the next Acharya. But just after his passing away, his leading secretaries made plans without authority to occupy the post of Acharya. And they split into two factions over who the next Acharya would be. Consequently, both factions were asara, useless, because they had no authority, having disobeyed the order of the spiritual master. Despite the spiritual master's order to form a governing body and execute the missionary activities of the Gaudiya Math, the two unauthorized factions began litigation that is still going on after 40 years with no decision. Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naran Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatho Jaya Mudhiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7 and Text 31. Pashandapatha Vaishamyam Pashandapatha Vaishamyam Pratiloma Niveshanam Pratiloma Niveshanam Jivasya Gatayaha Yaha Cha Jivasya Gatayo Yascha Yavati Guna Karmajaha Yavati Guna Karmajaha Pashandapata Vaishamyam Pratiloma Niveshanam Jivasya Gatayo Yascha Yavati Guna Karmajaha. Bhaktas. Pashandapata, the path of the faithless. Vaishamyam, imperfection by contradiction. Pratiloma, crossbreeding. Niveshanam, situation. Jivasya, of the living entities. Gatayaha, movements. Yaha, as they are. Cha, also. Yavatihi, as many as. Guna, modes of material nature. Karmajaha, generated by different work. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swamy Prabhupada. Translation: Please also describe the imperfections and contradictions of the faithless atheists, the situation of crossbreeding, and the movements of the living entities in various species of life according to their particular modes of work, particular modes of nature and work. Please repeat. Please also describe the imperfections and contradictions of the faithless atheists, the situation of crossbreeding, and the movements of the living entities in various species of life according to their particular modes of nature and work. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The combination of living entities in different modes of material nature is called crossbreeding. The faithless atheists do not believe in the existence of God, and thus their paths of philosophy are contradictory. Atheistic philosophies never agree with one another. Different species of life are evidence of varieties of mixtures of the modes of material nature. The sense of Bhaktivedanta purport. Om ajnanathimirantasya anjana shalakaya chakshuran militam ena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So interestingly, Vidura, wanting to know Pashandapatha, the paths of the atheists, the faithless atheists, and then Vaishamyam, their imperfections and contradictions. He knows atheists will not be able to give a comprehensive, complete understanding. Certainly they will have imperfections and contradictions in their theories. But is eager to know what are those Pashandapata. So devotees, not only that they chant and dance, they also have to face the world and able to communicate the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And when we go out and face the world, you have to face all these philosophies, like atheistic philosophies. So we should know what is our version of various subjects. Atheists, their central point will be how God can be removed from the picture. How Krishna can be removed from the picture. So Vidura, he is, for the sake of all of us, he is now asking Maitreya to describe. So that means these Pashanda theories are not new. They exist. From time immemorial, these theories and philosophies are there. For example, Prabhupada quotes one famous atheist from the Vedic times, Charvaka Muni. He says there is no next life. Once the body dies, it's going to be an ash. So beg, borrow and steal. Get money and nicely eat ghee and ghee-based food. This is what he says. According to Vedic understanding, cooked food means it should be cooked in ghee. So Charvaka Muni is saying, yes, you should eat cooked food. And for that you don't have money, don't worry. Beg, borrow and steal. And then anyway there is no next life. Don't worry, you will not have any obligations in the next life. This is what is theory. So this is an atheistic theory. Prabhupada brings out one interesting point from this theory. He says, yes, Charvaka Muni said, beg, borrow, steal and eat. But he said, eat ghee food. He never said meat. See, even Vedic atheist, he never said you should eat meat. So that's why, so these theories are there. Vidura is wanting to know, yes, what are these theories? And then Pratiloma Niveshanam, he also wants to know about the crossbreeding. How these various classes or various castes, they mix. This is called mixed classes, Pratiloma. We have an example of this Pratiloma personality, Romaharshana Sutta. When he was seated on the Vyasasana at Naimisharanya, the sages were all seated in front of him. They are actually Brahmanas, Dvajashreshta, Ata Pumbhi Dvajashreshta. And on the Vyasasana was Romaharshana Sutta. So when Balaram, he enters into that arena, all the Brahmanas, they recognize him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then they stand up out of respect, to show respect to him. But Romaharshana Sutta, he doesn't get up from the Vyasasana. He doesn't show any respect to the Supreme Lord. So that's when Balaram starts considering, what is this personality? What is his background? And then he realizes that he is born in a Pratiloma combination. According to Vedic science, there are two types of heritages possible, Anuloma and Pratiloma. Anuloma means the father is from a higher caste and mother is from a lower caste. A Brahmana father, for example, marries a Kshatriya woman or a Vaishya. That is Anulom. Pratiloma means the man is from a lower caste. A Kshatriya marrying a Brahmana girl, like a Yayati, he marries a Brahmana girl. So Vidura is interested to know what are these crossbreeding. It happens even in the plants. Crossbreeding is done in the plants also. In fact, this crossbreeding in the plants is considered an art. And if you study the 64 arts that Krishna has learnt under the Guru, in the Gurukul, Sandipani Muni, you will see that one of the arts that he has learnt was how to mix these plants, crossbreeding among the plants. So it was considered as an art. But then how to do that crossbreeding is important. One has to understand the Vedic principles. Nowadays they are doing some GM modified, genetically modified, demoniac crossbreeding or whatever that you call. You cannot name it also. So that's the kind of seeds that are available. So then jivasya gatayo yascha, how the living entities, living entities move among the species of life. How they move among the species. Actually, the movement of these living entities among the species. We have a famous atheistic theory by name Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin's main purpose is, as explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, asatyam apratishtam te jagadahuranishwaram. His goal is to prove that anishwaram, this world is running automatically. There is a natural selection. It's all done by the nature. There is a natural selection is there. And the fittest species will survive. This is what Darwin theory is. Many countries have banned this theory from their educational systems because they don't find any meaning in it. Of course, India, you put any theory, it will be popular, including this Darwin's theory. Nobody even analyzes it. So then, one devotee, he was discussing with Srila Prabhupada about this Darwin's theory. Prabhupada spends a lot of time analyzing these atheistic philosophies, famously known as Western philosophies. Most of them, they want to show that there is Anishwaram, there is no God in control. Everything is happening by simply kama haitukam, simply by sexual impulse, that's all. There is no God, there is no Lord in charge of all this. So, the devotee, so then Prabhupada used to have a lot of these discussions with Shyamasundara and some other devotees also. And then he used to give Vedic perspective on these Western philosophies. Pascal philosophy, this Darwin, Feud theory, like there are innumerable theories were there. And Prabhupada spent a lot of time analyzing these theories and pointing out the imperfect, Vaishamyam, contradictions and imperfections in those theories. Very important to understand this. All these conversations have to be read by the devotees. They made one book called Science of Self-Discovery. In that book, in the last chapter is nothing but some of these philosophies. So, the devotee is saying, Darwin tried to show how the origin of living species could be fully explained by purely mechanical, unplanned action of natural forces. His goal is to show that he wants to give a complete explanation, but with natural forces. By the process he called natural selection, all the higher complex forms of life gradually evolved from more primitive and rudimentary ones. In a given animal population, for example, some individuals will have traits that make them adapt better to their environment. These more fit individuals will survive to pass on their favorable traits to their offspring. The unfit will gradually be weeded out naturally. Thus, a cold climate will favor those who have, say, long hair or fatty tissue, and the species will then gradually evolve in that direction. It's a complex first paragraph given to Prabhupada. Prabhupada is saying, the question is that in the development of the body, is there any plan? that a particular kind of body, for example, long hair or fatty tissue, should exist under certain natural conditions? Who has made these arrangements? That is the question. Straight away Prabhupada is bringing the question of who made these arrangements. Devotee, no one. Modern evolutionists ultimately base their theory on the existence of chance variations. They come to chance. So Prabhupada is saying that is nonsense. There is no such thing as chance. If they say chance, then they are nonsense. Our question remains, who has created the different circumstances for the existence of different kinds of animals? Devotee, for example, a frog may lay thousands of eggs, but out of all of them, only a few may survive to adulthood. Those who do are more fit than the others. If the environment did not favorably select the fittest, then too many frogs. Prabhupada, yes, frogs and many other animals lay eggs by the hundreds. A snake gives birth to scores of snakes at a time, and if all were allowed to exist, there would be a great disturbance. Therefore, big snakes, they devour the small snakes. That is nature's law. But Radha Govinda ki jai. But behind nature's law is a brain. That is our proposition. Nature's law is not blind, for behind it there is a brain, and that brain is God. So, Prabhupada is saying that devotee is basing his argument on chance. You can see Prabhupada is quickly bringing him to the brain behind this natural selection. Devotee is saying, but Darwin has a huge amount of evidence. Prabhupada, evidence? That's all right. We also have got evidence. Evidence must be there. But as soon as there is evidence, there should be no talk of chance. Then devotee is saying, for example, out of millions of frogs, one may happen to be better adapted to living in the water. Prabhupada is saying, but that is not by chance. That is by plan. He doesn't know that. As soon as one says chance, it means his knowledge is imperfect. A man says chance when he cannot explain. It is evasive. So the conclusion is that he is without perfect knowledge and therefore unfit for giving any knowledge. He is cheating, that's all. Prabhupada's devotee is saying, well, Darwin sees a plan or a design in a sense, but Prabhupada, if he sees a plan or design, then whose design? As soon as you recognize a design, you must acknowledge a designer. If you see a plan, then you must accept a planner. That he doesn't know. So you can see, he started off with chance, and then Prabhupada pointed that contradiction in his argument, then an imperfection in his argument. And Prabhupada has finally brought him to the plan, or the design, or the plan. Devotee is still trying, he is saying, but can't you say it's just mechanical? Prabhupada, then who made it mechanical? Again, you see, so much clarity in Prabhupada's thought. So devotees should spend time understanding these arguments. If something is mechanical, then there must be a mechanic, a brain. Who made the machine? Who made it? So there must be a brain behind all these things. So here, devotee makes a last attempt. He says, Darwin tried to make the appearance and disappearance of living forms seem so natural and involuntary that God is removed from the picture. Evolutionary theory makes it appear as if combinations of material ingredients created life and then various species evolved from another naturally. Prabhupada, that is foolishness. Combination means God. God is combining. Combination doesn't take place automatically. Suppose I am cooking. many ingredients gathered for cooking, but they do not combine together by themselves. I am the cooker, and in cooking I combine together ghee, spices, rice, dal and so on. And in this way nice dishes are produced. Similarly, the combination of ingredients in nature requires God. Otherwise, how does the moment arise in which the combination takes place? Do you place all the ingredients in the kitchen and in 1 hour come back and say, "Oh, where is my meal?" Nonsense. Who will cook your meal? You will starve. Like that, Darwin was trying to make it Anishwaram. It's not only Darwin, not only this scientists, atheistic scientists. There are some apparently Vedic paths. They also make it Anishwaram. Of course, Buddhists, they are known as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Bauddhaya Nastik. Buddhists are called Nastik. They are atheistic. And then there is one more category. These are very dangerous people. What they say is, they quote verses from Upanishad and all these Vedic literatures. They quote verses. They, Sanskrit verses they quote. And they give ornamental classes. And they will have wonderful discussions. And if he gives a class, people will clap. They come on TVs also. And then they do all these things. And there also, their main goal is to prove that Aneshwaram. Ultimately, it is not God. Ultimately, it is just some energy. They are known as Mayavadis. Mahaprabhu says, Prachannam Bauddham. These Mayavadis are covered atheists. They don't directly say there is no God. They will say everybody is God. They don't say God. God means whole focus will come on one person. But if they say everybody is God, then who cares? That means there is no God. This everybody is God is covered atheism. Aneshwaram. Jagad Ahu Aneshwaram. So, there also, that's why Mahaprabhu says, Mayavada Bhashya Sunile Haya Sharvanas. You get attracted to their Sanskrit verses, Upanishad and this and that, and finally their goal is to show that there is no God. But then what is the evolution? What is Vedic version of evolution? That also we will see Prabhupada explains here. Devotee, I am just saying that it appears through layer after layer of deposits in the earth that biological forms tend to progress from simple to primitive forms to more and more complex and specialized ones until finally civilized man appears. Prabhupada, but at the present moment both the simple and complex forms are existing. One did not develop into the other. For example, my childhood body has developed into my adult body and the child's body is no longer there. So if the higher complex species are developed from the simpler lower species, then we should see no simple species. But all species are now existing simultaneously. When I see all 84 lakh species of life existing, what is the question of development? Each species exists now and it existed long ago. You might not have seen it, but you have no proper source of knowledge. You might have missed it. That is another thing. So, Prabhupada gives one example. For example, if you are traveling in a train, you find first class, second class, third class. They are all existing. If you pay a higher fare and enter the first class carriage, you cannot say now the first class is created. It was already existing. So the defect of the evolutionists is that they have no information of the soul. The soul is evolving, transmigrating from one compartment to another compartment. simply changing place. So Darwin, what he says is, life started from millions and millions of years ago. Initially, it was primitive forms, aquatics, amoeba and all that. And slowly they transformed into complex forms. And finally, the civilized man appeared. So Prabhupada's point is, if the human being has come from monkey, let us say monkey got transformed into human being, then monkey should not exist. Only human beings should be there because they are already transformed. But Prabhupada is saying, monkeys are also there, human beings are also there, even now. So then what do you think about, then where is our evolution theory? All the monkeys should have become human beings and that's all over. No more monkeys. So he has no answer for that. Then devotee is saying, Darwin and other material scientists who have no information about the soul, now he has, because he's a devotee, he is now coming back to soul. Prabhupada, they are missing the whole point. Devotee, they say that all living things tend to evolve from lower to higher in the history of the earth. Prabhupada, that may be accepted. For example, in an apartment building, there are different kinds of apartment. First class apartment, second class apartment, third class apartment. According to your desire and qualification, as you are fit to pay the rent, you are allowed to move up to better apartments. But the different apartments are already there. They are not evolving. The residents are evolving by moving to new apartments as they desire. Now this is an important point. All the apartments are there already. Then who is evolving? The people based on their capacity to pay from lower apartment to the higher apartment to the highest apartment. They are moving like that. So similarly, 84 lakh species are already there. The bodies are already present. The soul, based on its capacity to pay, based on its destiny, it can get into one of those 84 lakh species. So this is the question that Vidura is asking. Jivasya gataya, how these jivas are moving in the species. Yavati gunakarma bihi, based on their gunakarma. Based on their gunakarma, how these jivas are, living entities are moving in this species. It's a very important understanding. Otherwise we think that there is no soul and everything is simply evolving from matter. So then this devotee is saying, I understand that, I accept, but I am still puzzled as to why there is no geological evidence that in former times on this planet there were more complex forms. When you dig, you don't get any evidence. Prabhupada is saying, why are you taking geological evidence as final? Is it final? Science is progressing, you cannot say it is final. And devotee is saying, but I have excavated all parts of the world and every time. Prabhupada, no, you have not excavated all parts of the world. Devotee is saying, well, on 7 continents. Prabhupada, 7 continents is not the whole world. You say you have excavated the whole world, but we say no, not even an insignificant portion. So your knowledge is limited. Dr. Frog has examined his 3-foot wide well. Now he claims to know the ocean. Experimental knowledge is always imperfect, because one experiments with imperfect senses. Therefore scientific knowledge must be imperfect. One source of knowledge is different. Our source of knowledge is different. We do not depend on experimental knowledge. Now you see no dinosaurs, nor have I seen all the 84 lakh species. But my source of knowledge is different. You are an experimenter with imperfect senses. I have taken knowledge from the perfect person, who has seen everything, who knows everything. Therefore my knowledge is perfect. Say for example that I receive knowledge from my mother. Here is your father, but you are trying to search out your father on your own. You don't go to your mother and ask. You just search and search. Therefore, no matter how much you search, your knowledge will always remain imperfect. Then devotee is saying, and your knowledge says that millions of years ago there were higher forms on life on this planet? Prabhupada, oh yes. Because our Vedic information is that the first created being is the most intelligent. The most intellectual person within the universe, Lord Brahma, the cosmic engineer. Darwin's theory says the first living entity is amoeba. But here it is mentioned it is Lord Brahma. Devotees say, wouldn't there be evidence in the earth, some remains? Prabhupada is saying, our evidence is intelligence, not stones and bones. Our evidence is intelligence. We get Vedic information by disciplic succession from the most intelligent. Actually, devotees should be convinced that the Vedic evidence is sufficient. Because the Vedic information has come from the most intelligent personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, for devotees or for anybody, if they want to understand the things all around them, the only process, the only way is to receive the information from the most intelligent personality. Since God is the creator, He created this world, whatever information He gives, that is complete. Whatever information that we receive from Him, that is complete and that is perfect. This archaeology and all these departments, they go on digging the earth in various places, and then they try to figure out what is the theory of evolution or how the species came. They will never be able to give a complete picture to the mankind. Like that devotee is saying, no, we digged up in all the 7 continents. Probably they would have digged up here and there, here and there. But have they digged up the entire planet? And then entire planet means not only 7 continents, there are big, big oceans. Have they digged up the entire ocean and figured out what and all, what kind of species are there? So that process is completely illogical and imperfect. So that's why Prabhupada is always stressing on the Vedic version of how the species are created and how they transmigrate from one version to another version. That's why here you see Vidura is not taken one, digging tool, and he has gone around and digging. No. He is asking a bona fide Acharya, Maitreya Rishi, sir, can you please tell me about evolution theory? How the species have appeared, and then how the species are moving from one species to another species, how the living entities are moving, and then how the crossbreeding is done, and then what are the atheistic philosophies. See, this is how we should seek the knowledge. Always we should approach a bona fide spiritual master and receive the knowledge in a descending process, and that makes us perfect. Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, in translation, Prabhupada is writing the situation of crossbreeding, actual translation, the situation of crossbreeding and the movements of living entities in various species of life, according to their particular modes of nature and work.
Yeah.
Then purport also, Prabhupada is explaining a combination of living entities in different modes of material nature is called crossbreeding.
Yeah.
So generally when we go around society and encourage people, Prabhu, to hear Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, so that particularly when they are in pregnancy stage, we recommend to hear Srimad, Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, chant holy name, so that outcome baby may have some good qualities. So, but if we see in the history, Prabhu, Hiranyakashipu and his wife Kayadu, so they had a good devotee Prahlada. So because we know that because of Narada Muni teachings, Prahlada was born very good, because he has heard Vedic literature from true spiritual master. And then Prabhupada said somewhere that Pandavas are pure devotees. So Bhishma and Hidimbi combined together, they had a Gatodgaja. So they are Bhima and Hidimba, Gatodgaja. So and then Kashyap Muni and then Diti and Aditi. So they had respective demigods and demonic people. So if you see here, only the role of father is not, my understanding is, father, he may be divine or demonic, but even Kashyap Muni is very spiritual, and then Bhima is a pure devotee, but the outcome is depending on the woman. If she is divine or she is godly, so outcome is the respective children is godly or demonic. So is it that only that factor is considered, or even the male's three modes while conceiving it is also considered true?
As I said, for this crossbreeding or breeding, there are Vedic regulations are there. How to conceive a child is a topic. How to beget a good child is a topic which Vedic literature extensively explains. How a father and mother should engage in sexual activity so that a good child is produced. That's why the Vedic literature recommend what are known as samskaras. Samskaras means there is one samskara called garbhadhana samskara. Garbhadhana. So it is the charity of garbha, that is the samskara, wherein both father and mother, they are supposed to practice certain rituals, they are supposed to go through some austerities. Particularly, they are supposed to focus on the Supreme Lord. And in a divine consciousness, that means in their minds, they have to remain as pure as possible. And with that pure heart and mind, when they engage in the sexual activity, and that too on the recommended times. Here, for example, Kashyapa and Diti, they engaged in sexual intercourse and in forbidden times. So, since they have not followed the Vedic process, although the father is very exalted, because it is a forbidden time, a demon enters into the womb of the Diti. A demoniac living entity is introduced. So it is connected to the mental situation of the father and mother, and it is also depending on the times, what time and all those things. In Kali Yuga, unfortunately, nobody knows this scientific process of begetting wonderful children. So that's why they end up with what are known as unwanted children. Their intention is actually not to beget a child. Their intention is something else. They just want to enjoy. And then it so happens that the child comes, and then it becomes unwanted. That is called Varna Shankara population. This is what Arjuna is worried about in the first chapter. Varna Shankara. This Pratiloma, that means sometimes unwanted mixing is there of the males and females. They are called Varna Shankara. So if the parents are not wanting, but the child comes out, and then so they don't give that much of love to the child. It's a disturbance to them, because they still have enjoying ambitions, and the child becomes an obstacle. What to do is there, and now we have to take care of him. It's a time waste because they have their own plans of how to enjoy in their lives. So that's why there is a wonderful culture in the Vedic system, that how this whole sex and family life is meant for producing beautiful, wonderful children, either male or female. The whole house, the family life is meant for producing good children who can become first class citizens of this world. They can become great devotees. So the parents' responsibility is to see that the children are growing with good qualities. Culture is there, qualities are there. And for that, the children have to be taught this Krishna consciousness or God consciousness from the childhood. So that is the important responsibility of the parents. But because the child is unwanted, sometimes they don't give time, and then so the children grow as very irresponsible, jerky type. And then once they grow a little older, then the parents will start lamenting, "Arey, what happened to my child? He's like this." They don't care for the father and mother. They sit in front of the father and mother with the bottle, and they'll say, "Chala jao, you give me this." And at that time they wake up and say, "Why he has become like this?" He has become like this because you have done like that. So, but then we have seen many parents, they take advantage of this Krishna conscious process. Now, they might not have followed all those samskaras, they might not have followed all the timings and this and that. Say children are there, fine. But if the Krishna conscious process is something very special, even if they don't have all these qualifications, but if they come to Krishna consciousness, that means if they take to chanting Hare Krishna, directly touching Krishna, then all those imperfections can be removed and the children can become gentlemen. They can become first class individuals. So that's the thing. That's why sometimes you see these interesting combinations. Father may be very good, mother also may be very good, but the child could be very bad. Why? Because timings are not there properly, and their minds are not focused on pure things. Maybe they are focused on pleasure. These are the difficulties. So that's why even in the rooms they used to have the pictures of God, so that they can look at the God's picture. Their consciousness can be developed. People don't have this training. They don't know. But as I said, even then they need not have to worry. And at any point of life, in their journey, if they come across Krishna, this Krishna conscious process, they can change their life. Simply take up chanting. Because in this age, all these Vedic rituals are difficult to follow, not easy to follow. So best is to chant Hare Krishna. For devotee Grihastha couples, Prabhupada gave the method how to beget good children. So before they combine, they should chant many rounds. In fact, 50 rounds they have to chant. And then only they can combine. Combination has to be done by God, not by lust. So then you will see beautiful children with wonderful qualities there. Just to conclude, I will tell you one example that I have seen. Long ago, maybe some few months back, I got 2 video clips. One video clip is about a child and the parents, and the father is drinking, mother is also drinking, and the child is also drinking. She is this much, and father, he took away the bottle from the child's hand. Immediately child is crying. She is throwing her hands and legs and this and that. She or he, I don't know the boy. So then she, the child is, basically jiddi kar rahe hain. It is, and then again the father gave one word. Okay, chalo, don't cry. Okay. That is one video clip I saw. There is one more video clip I saw, where is a small baby. She is like this, very small baby, and mother is chanting Damodarashtakam, Namamishwaram, all. Then immediately the child is completing that shloka. Sachidananda Rupam, she is saying. And then again she is like small baby. There is one more video clip I saw, that child is crying, and when the parents are chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, then child is she is very happy, smiling and looking at them. And then when they stopped, again she started crying. She is crying for Hare Krishna. The other one is, she is crying for a bottle, not milk bottle, it's a big brand. So these are all not accidental, these are all not chance. Everything is a process. In this world, everything is a process. And who is the process maker? Krishna is the maker. And what did he say? He said everything in Bhagavad Gita. So if you can read Bhagavad Gita, the process maker, Maidhyakshena Prakriti, then one becomes very intelligent, and then he can lead a perfect life. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణ వాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణ వాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700.